The galaxy had always been loud. Ships hummed through space at incredible speeds, and planets were alive with the chatter of interstellar communications. There was always something happening. Whether it was the bustling of trade routes, the politics of powerful galactic empires, or the hum of massive warships traveling across the stars. The galaxy never slept, and neither did its inhabitants. But for some reason, something was different today. It was as though a strange silence had fallen over the galaxy. Ships stopped transmitting their usual data. Communication stations across the stars were eerily quiet, as if everyone had forgotten how to speak. Even the stars seemed to hold their breath. Far, far away, on a forgotten planet, humanity was about to reveal its presence once again. A small planet, once home to a thriving civilization, was now the base of a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. The fleet had been in hiding for so long, its power growing in silence, waiting for the right moment to strike. Today, that moment had arrived. The Earth fleet was like no other. It had been hidden from the eyes of the galaxy for centuries, ever since the Great War that had nearly destroyed humanity. The Galactic Council, a massive coalition of the most powerful races in the galaxy, had seen Earth as a threat and destroyed the planet, leaving only a few survivors scattered throughout the stars. But they didn't destroy everything. They missed something. They'd missed the fleet. The last remaining ships, hidden deep in the galaxy, had been kept secret from the rest of the universe. These ships had been built long ago by the greatest minds of humanity, designed to withstand the worst of battles, and equipped with technology that the galaxy had never seen. As the countdown began, the first ships in the fleet began to power up. Slowly at first, their engines hummed to life, breaking the silence with a sound that seemed almost too loud for such an empty space. The ship's lights flickered, then grew bright. The fleet, once dormant, was now ready for its final mission. On board the lead ship, the command room was filled with tense silence. Officers stood at attention, their eyes fixed on the large screens in front of them. The time had finally come. The mission they had been preparing for had arrived. The Galactic Council would learn, very soon, that humanity had not been destroyed. Earth was coming back to take what was once theirs. In the captain's chair sat Captain Sarah Thompson, a veteran of the Earth fleet. Her eyes were cold, focused, and resolute. She had waited for this moment her entire life, and now the time had come. Her fingers moved across the controls, sending commands to the fleet to begin their final journey. It was a long road ahead, but it was a road they would not be walking alone. Thousands of ships, all bearing the mark of humanity, were joining the mission. The fleet had been in deep space, away from any galactic eyes, waiting for the right moment to emerge. That moment was now. "Captain," a voice said behind her. Lieutenant James Connors stood at attention, his face pale but filled with determination. "The countdown is almost complete." Captain Thompson nodded, her fingers hovering over the final command. "This is it," she said, her voice steady. "Prepare the fleet. The galaxy won't know what hit it." The screens in front of them blinked, and with a single press of a button, the fleet began to move, slowly at first, but then faster as the engines roared to life, pushing the massive ships forward into the unknown. The silent countdown was over, and humanity's fleet had begun its journey to the heart of the galaxy. In a distant corner of the galaxy, the Galactic Council's warships continued their patrols. They were oblivious to the coming storm. The Empire, confident in their strength, had no idea what was about to unfold. They thought humanity was a distant memory, nothing more than a footnote in the history of the galaxy. But they were wrong. Back aboard the Earth fleet, the crew watched as the stars outside the window began to move faster and faster. They were on their way to the heart of the Galactic Empire, and nothing would stop them. The silence had ended, and the galaxy was about to hear the roar of humanity's might. Captain Thompson looked up at the stars, her face filled with both pride and determination. "This is just the beginning," she whispered to herself. "The galaxy will learn the truth." And so, The journey had begun. The countdown was over, and humanity was about to make its mark on the galaxy once more. The Empire would soon know the wrath of the humans they had once thought they had destroyed. The galaxy would tremble, and Earth's fleet would lead the charge. The ships of humanity's fleet cut through space like a tidal wave, unstoppable and vast. As they traveled toward the core of the Galactic Empire, an eerie silence continued to hang over the galaxy. The rest of the universe was completely unaware of the storm brewing. The Empire's massive ships patrolled, their officers complacent, believing that their dominance over the stars was unchallenged. But the silence wasn't to last long. The Galactic Empire, with its many centuries of control and power, had no idea that a force was about to emerge, one that they had never anticipated. This was not an enemy they had expected to confront. They were about to face humanity's wrath, and this time, it wasn't just the remnants of a broken world. It was a force built for vengeance. As the fleet moved, the captain's face remained stoic, her mind focused on the task ahead. She had been briefed on the potential encounters they might face once they entered enemy space. The Galactic Empire would have numerous warships with advanced weapons and technology, but humanity had something that no one else had: the element of surprise. "We're entering Imperial space," Lieutenant Connors said, his voice breaking the silence that had lasted too long. "The enemy fleet should be just ahead, Captain." Captain Thompson nodded without turning. She had prepared herself for this moment for years, knowing full well that her people had never been given a second chance. The Earth's fleet had been built from the ashes of the old world, each ship a testament to humanity's resilience. Now, it was their time to show the galaxy what they had become. The lead ship, the Vanguard, was at the front of the fleet, the largest and most advanced vessel humanity had ever constructed. Armed with weaponry beyond anything the Empire had encountered, it was the spearhead of their assault. It carried within it not only the best of Earth's military minds, but also the hopes of all the people who had been scattered across the stars. "Ready the weapons," Captain Thompson commanded. Her voice was calm, but filled with determination. "This is it." The Vanguard's weapons systems hummed to life, and the rest of the fleet followed suit. The ships were armed with energy cannons, powerful shields, and advanced stealth systems designed to outsmart even the most advanced Empire radar. But their most deadly asset wasn't their weapons. It was their unity. Humanity, for the first time in thousands of years, was united once more. As the fleet moved deeper into Imperial territory, the first sign of resistance appeared. A lone Empire scout ship, a small vessel compared to the might of the fleet, came into view. The scout ship was part of the Empire's early warning system, tasked with detecting any ships that dared to enter their space. It sent out a distress signal just before its sensors locked onto the incoming fleet. The signal went out, but it was too late. Without a single warning shot, the Vanguard unleashed a burst of energy from its primary weapons. The scout ship's shields flared briefly before collapsing under the power of the blast. In an instant, it was torn apart, reduced to space debris. "Message sent," Lieutenant Connors said with a slight grin, watching the destruction on his screen. The captain nodded. "Let them know we've arrived." Just as quickly as the scout ship had been obliterated, the fleet continued its journey. They were entering the heart of the Empire, and their message had already been delivered. Soon, the larger battle groups of the Empire began to notice this strange shift in their space. They had felt the first attack, but thought it was a fluke. That was until more and more ships began to appear on their radar, and the true scale of the human fleet was revealed. In a distant control room aboard an Imperial warship, an officer looked at the screens in disbelief. He couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. The signals, the strange ships. Could it really be humanity? The Empire had believed them wiped out, every last trace of Earth extinguished. But the officer's fear was real, and it spread quickly through the ship. He turned to his commanding officer. "Admiral, we've got a fleet incoming. It's unlike anything we've ever seen." The admiral turned slowly, his face turning pale as he realized the truth. The humans had returned, and they were bringing an army with them. The Empire had no idea what to expect, but one thing was certain: their once invincible rule over the galaxy was about to come crashing down. "Alert the fleet," the Admiral ordered, his voice tense. "Prepare for battle. This is no ordinary enemy." Far away, Captain Thompson sat in her command chair, eyes locked on the vastness of space before her. The fleet was now within striking distance of the Empire's stronghold. Her mission was clear. She had waited for this moment for too long. She would not stop until humanity had its vengeance. "We're not just here to fight," Captain Thompson whispered to herself, her voice low but filled with quiet rage. "We're here to take back what's ours." The war had begun, and the Empire had just made their biggest mistake: underestimating humanity. The human fleet, having broken through the first line of defense with ease, now found themselves staring down the full might of the Galactic Empire. The sheer scale of the Empire's warships was intimidating, their enormous hulls lined with powerful weapons and shields that could withstand the toughest attacks. It was a force built over millennia, with advanced technology, endless resources, and a ruthless strategy. But humanity wasn't scared. They weren't here to be intimidated. Captain Thompson sat in the command chair of the Vanguard, her eyes sharp, her mind focused. The mission was clear: hit the Empire where it hurt the most, and make them understand that humanity was no longer their prey. It was time to send a message, one that would shake the Empire to its core. "Status report," she commanded. "Sir, the Empire's main fleet is coming into view," Lieutenant Connors replied. "They've mustered their forces, more than we expected. There are at least 30 capital ships, each one bristling with weaponry." Captain Thompson didn't flinch. "We knew they'd try to stop us. Are we ready?" "Ready and waiting," Captain Connors said. The crew had worked tirelessly to prepare the fleet for this moment, and now it was time to prove that their training and their unity was their greatest strength. "All ships, hold formation," Captain Thompson ordered. "We strike together. No one breaks rank." The Vanguard and the rest of the fleet moved forward, their engines powering up for full-speed combat. As they neared the enemy, the space around them seemed to darken, the tension palpable. The Empire's warships loomed closer, their guns aimed and ready to fire. Suddenly, a burst of energy shot out from one of the Empire's capital ships, and before anyone could react, a barrage of plasma missiles filled the void. The human fleet was under attack. "Shields up," Connors shouted, but Captain Thompson remained calm. She knew that this moment was inevitable, and she had prepared for it. The first round of fire hit the Vanguard's shields, sending sparks flying across the hull, but the ship held firm. The fleet's advanced defense systems absorbed the brunt of the attack. "We have them in our sights," said Lieutenant Dre, a weapons officer. His fingers moved across the controls, locking onto the Empire ship that had fired. Weapons primed and ready. "Shall we return fire, Captain?" "Fire," Captain Thompson ordered. In an instant, the Vanguard's main cannon fired a bright beam of energy, cutting through space toward the enemy ship. The blast hit the capital ship's shields, causing them to shimmer before giving way under the intense force. The enemy ship's hull was exposed, and the human fleet's weaponry tore into it, causing a chain reaction of explosions. The Empire ship shook violently before exploding in a fiery flash, debris scattering in all directions. The sound of the explosion, though muffled through space, was felt throughout the human fleet. "Direct hit," Captain Connors said, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. "They won't be coming back from that." But the victory was short-lived. The Empire, enraged and unwilling to let their ships be destroyed so easily, retaliated with full force. More ships opened fire, launching a barrage of missiles and energy blasts toward the fleet. The human ships swerved and dodged, engaging evasive maneuvers that had been drilled into them for years. Another explosion rocked the Vanguard as a missile struck their left flank, causing alarms to blare across the bridge. "Damage report," Captain Thompson barked. "We've lost one of the outer engines," Captain Dre responded. "But we're still operational." shields holding at 70%. Good, Thompson replied. No time to waste. Keep pushing forward. The human fleet advanced, moving in perfect coordination. Despite the overwhelming numbers of the Empire, the humans' precise tactics and unyielding spirit kept them in the fight. Each attack was calculated, each movement deliberate. They fought as one, united in their cause. Back on the Imperial warship, the commander stared in disbelief. The humans had taken down one of their most powerful ships with ease. The Empire had never faced an enemy quite like this before. How are they so strong? The commander muttered, his hands trembling as he watched the destruction unfold. They've outmaneuvered us, his officers said. Their tactics are unpredictable. Prepare the fleet for all-out combat. We can't let them get any closer to the core, the commander snapped. Reinforcements are on the way, but we need to hold the line. At that moment, the reality set in for the Empire. They were no longer the hunters. They were the prey. Humanity's fleet, though smaller in number, had proven itself to be far more powerful than anything they had expected. The battle raged on, and with every passing minute, the Imperial forces were pushed further back. The human fleet was relentless, and their determination was unbreakable. As the Vanguard pushed forward, Captain Thompson felt a surge of pride. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming humanity's place in the galaxy. And with each enemy ship that fell, that goal seemed closer than ever before. Prepare for Phase 2, Captain Thompson said. We have them right where we want them. The fight was far from over, but humanity had made their point. They would not be ignored, they would not be beaten, and they would not rest until the Empire was brought to its knees. The battle had reached a critical moment. Humanity's fleet was still holding strong, but they were beginning to face the Empire's overwhelming numbers. Every human ship was working at full capacity, but the constant barrage of fire from the Empire's fleet was taking its toll. Yet Captain Thompson remained steadfast at the helm of the Vanguard. The tide had to turn, and she would ensure it did. Status update. She barked as the battle raged on around her. The bridge of the Vanguard hummed with activity, crew members shouting orders and making quick decisions in real time. Shields are holding, but we've taken significant damage to the starboard side, Connors reported. Several smaller ships have been hit, Captain. We may need to pull back or risk losing more. The human fleet had lost a few ships already. Each explosion that echoed in space sent a chill down the crew's spines. They had come this far, but the fight wasn't over yet. With the odds stacked against them, Captain Thompson knew this would be the most important decision of her life. She glanced at the holographic map in front of her, displaying the positions of every ship involved in the battle. The Empire's ships were arranged in a solid line, an unyielding wall of firepower. Humanity's fleet had managed to push past the first few waves, but the Empire's reinforcements were just arriving, and their firepower was even more intimidating. We can't retreat now, Thompson said to herself, more than anyone else. Not after everything we've done. She looked up at her crew, who were waiting for her next order. They were exhausted, but their resolve hadn't wavered. Humanity had always been a species defined by its perseverance. It was that very quality that had allowed them to survive against all odds. All ships, listen up. Captain Thompson's voice rang out across the fleet. We can't let them break us. We need to break them first. We are not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every colony, every person in the galaxy who has suffered under the Empire's tyranny. Her words were powerful, cutting through the chaos of the battlefield. The crew of the Vanguard tightened their grips on their consoles, and all around the fleet, humanity's ships began to move as one. We're taking the fight to them, Thompson continued. Every ship, focus on those command vessels. If we take down their leaders, the rest will fall. We've come too far to back down now. A renewed sense of purpose spread through the fleet. They had always known their mission, to reclaim their place in the galaxy. But now, it was clear. This wasn't just a mission. It was a statement. Humanity would not be crushed, no matter how mighty the Empire thought it was. Target locked on their flagship. Lieutenant Dre said, "Ready to fire on your command, Captain." Captain Thompson nodded. This was the moment. The key to the victory they needed. "Fire," she ordered. A massive beam shot from the Vanguard's weapons, slicing through the void of space. It struck the flagship of the Empire's fleet, tearing through its shields and slamming into its hull with devastating force. The flagship shook violently, its engines sputtering as it lost power. For a moment, it seemed as though the entire fleet had gone still, the aftermath of that single shot hanging in the air. But the Empire wasn't going down without a fight. The remaining ships in their fleet fired back, a new wave of energy blasts raining down on the human fleet. Humanity's ships engaged their evasive maneuvers, dodging and weaving through the oncoming fire. But the damage was done. The Empire's flagship, once a symbol of their power, was now crippled, its once imposing form flickering weakly. "Captain, the flagship is losing power," Connors reported. "They're vulnerable." Captain Thompson didn't hesitate. "All ships converge on the flagship. This is our chance. We end this now." Humanity's fleet, like a predator closing in on its prey, began to swarm the damaged flagship. Their weapons fired in unison, and one by one, the Empire's remaining defenses began to fall. The once imposing flagship was now reduced to a burning husk, its energy shields flickering and its weapons no longer firing back. But then something unexpected happened. The flagship's destruction sent a ripple through the Empire's remaining forces. Ships began to break formation, their disciplined ranks shattering. The Empire's grip on the battle began to loosen. "Keep pushing," Captain Thompson urged. "They're falling apart. We've got this." The remaining Empire ships, without their flagship's leadership, faltered. The coordinated fire stopped, and chaos began to set in. Some of the Empire's ships attempted to retreat, while others seemed to lose all will to fight. Humanity's fleet, riding the momentum of their success, pushed forward. The human ships, smaller but more agile, picked off the retreating Empire ships one by one, their weapons cutting through the confusion like a knife through butter. It was happening. The impossible was becoming a reality. Humanity's fleet, against all odds, was dismantling the once mighty Empire. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Captain Thompson allowed herself a moment of triumph. They had done it. They had broken the Empire's power. The galaxy would never be the same. But even in this moment of victory, she knew that the war was not over. There would be more battles, more struggles, and more sacrifices. But humanity had proven its worth. The Empire had been forced to face a truth it had long ignored. The human spirit was unbreakable. And now, the galaxy knew humanity had arrived, and they would not be ignored. The Empire's fleet was crumbling, but humanity's victory was still not guaranteed. Though the tide of battle had shifted in their favor, the enemy forces were not going to surrender without one last desperate attempt to hold onto their power. "Status on remaining enemy forces," Captain Thompson asked as she stood firm at the helm of the Vanguard. Her voice was calm, but every nerve in her body was tense. The smell of burning metal and the low hum of the damaged systems on her ship filled the air. She knew that this was the moment, the final battle. "Most of the fleet is retreating," Lieutenant Dre reported, "but there's a pocket of resistance near the edge of the sector." "They're holding their ground, Captain." Thompson turned her gaze to the large holographic display in front of her, which showed the positions of every ship in the battle. The retreating Empire ships were being picked off one by humanity's fleet, but the remaining resistance was gathering at the far end of the sector, preparing for one final stand. "They're not going to make it," Thompson muttered under her breath. But even as she spoke, she knew that her words were more of a hope than a fact. The Empire's resolve, once unshakable, had been battered and shattered. And yet, there were still enough ships left for one last push. "Captain, we've got incoming," Connor shouted, snapping Thompson's attention back to the present. The last group of Empire ships had made a last-minute maneuver, cutting off humanity's ships from the retreating forces. They were making a desperate final stand, hoping to buy time for the rest of their fleet to escape. Their formation was tight, defensive, and ready to do whatever it took to win. Thompson's mind raced as she quickly weighed her options. Time was running out, and if the Empire's resistance was not dealt with swiftly, it would have the power to regroup and prolong the war. Humanity needed to finish this now. All ships. Thompson's voice was firm and unwavering. We're going in. We hit them with everything we've got. No mercy. Take out their leadership, and the rest will scatter. Her orders were clear, and the crew sprang into action. The Vanguard surged forward, with the rest of the fleet following in close formation. They were outnumbered now, but the humans had the element of surprise on their side. The Empire's forces were exhausted, their morale crushed, and their ability to fight cohesively had been shattered. Now, humanity was in full control. "Captain, I'm seeing heavy fire from their flagships," Connors reported. "Their leader is still holding strong, but we can get past them. We have to disable their flagship first." "Understood," Thompson said, her gaze hardening. "Prepare for a direct assault. I'm taking us in close." The human fleet accelerated, pushing their ships into the heart of the enemy formation. The Empire's ships fired relentlessly, but they were running out of options. The once mighty armada was now fractured and chaotic. Thompson could see the Empire's flagship, a monstrous warship towering over the smaller ships around it. Its shields flared as humanity's ships closed in, but the Vanguard was too fast, too determined to be stopped. With a powerful blast, the ship fired its main weapon, directly at the flagship. The impact was catastrophic. The blast tore through the flagship's shields, sending shockwaves throughout the surrounding fleet. The flagship's shields flickered and died. The ship, once the pride of the Empire, was now crippled, its engines sputtering as it drifted helplessly in space. "Direct hit," Dre shouted. "Their shields are down. We've got an opening." "Don't stop now," Thompson urged. "This is our chance. All ships, focus fire on that flagship." Humanity's fleet surged forward as one, concentrating their firepower on the now vulnerable flagship. The once mighty vessel shook violently, explosions tearing through its hull as humanity's ships continued their relentless assault. The Empire's remaining ships tried to break formation, but it was too late. The flagship's destruction sent ripples through the enemy ranks. Morale shattered completely, and the Empire's forces began to retreat in disarray. Thompson watched as their enemy faltered. This was it. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. The Empire had lost its will to fight. The battlefield, once a place of chaos and destruction, was now a sea of floating debris as the remaining Empire ships scrambled to escape. "Finish them," Thompson said quietly, the words like a commandment. "No one escapes." Her crew nodded, but there was no joy in their faces, only the satisfaction of a hard-earned victory. The human fleet moved swiftly, hunting down the retreating Empire ships. There were no more surprises, no more tricks. The Empire's grip on the galaxy had been shattered. Humanity had triumphed against all odds. And as the battle came to an end, Captain Thompson allowed herself a moment of quiet relief. They had done it. They had broken the Empire's back and shown the galaxy that humanity could never be ignored again. As the final enemy ships were disabled and their escape attempts thwarted, the human fleet regrouped. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. "We've won this round," Captain Thompson said, her voice full of quiet pride. "But this is just the beginning. The galaxy will remember what humanity is capable of." And with that, the Vanguard and the rest of humanity's fleet moved forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The victory over the Empire had only just begun to ripple across the galaxy. The remnants of the once dominant Galactic Empire were now drifting aimlessly through the vastness of space, broken and scattered. Captain Thompson stood at the bridge of the Vanguard, watching the aftermath of the battle unfold on the holographic screen before her. The air was thick with the feeling of victory, but it was not a time for celebration. This moment was the turning point, the moment the galaxy would never forget. "Captain, we've received a transmission from the Galactic Council," Lieutenant Dre said, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. "They're requesting a ceasefire and negotiations." Thompson raised an eyebrow. After everything they had just endured, the enemy was already asking for peace. She walked over to the console, eyeing the transmission with caution. "Put it through," she ordered. A moment later, the image of a weary, aging alien appeared on the screen. His eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and desperation. He wore the insignia of the Galactic Council, a once powerful organization that had dominated the galaxy with their unchallenged authority. "Captain Thompson, we are requesting an immediate ceasefire," the alien said, his voice trembling. "The Empire is shattered. We have no more resources, no more ships. We cannot continue this war." Thompson narrowed her eyes. "You expect me to believe that the Empire, which has crushed entire civilizations, is suddenly begging for mercy?" she asked, her voice cold and sharp. The alien nodded, his face tense with fear. "We never wanted this. The Empire, they'd forced us into this war. We were merely their puppets. Please, Captain, you must understand. We don't have the strength to fight anymore." Thompson crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. "You're asking for peace now, but what about the countless worlds you've destroyed? The lives you've taken? What about the humans you've enslaved? Do you think a simple request for peace can erase all of that?" The alien flinched, clearly shaken by her words. "We never had a choice. The Emperor's orders were absolute. We were forced into this war by threats and manipulation. Please, Captain, we beg of you." Thompson's mind raced. She had seen the destruction, felt the pain humanity had endured. But there was something in the alien's eyes, something genuine. He wasn't asking for peace because he feared death, but because the Empire's iron grip had finally faltered. She looked over at her crew. They were all listening intently, their eyes full of disbelief. For so long, humanity had fought for this moment. For so long, they had dreamed of revenge. But now, as the last vestiges of the Empire begged for mercy, the question remained, what would humanity do with this power? "We've won the war," Thompson said, her voice firm yet calm. "The Empire is finished. But it's not over. This galaxy has suffered long enough, and we won't make the same mistakes they did." She turned back to the transmission. "You've lost. Your fleet is shattered. But this is not the end. We'll negotiate, but not on your terms. You'll pay for the suffering you've caused, and you'll help us rebuild what you destroyed. There will be no more conquests, no more empires. We will rebuild the galaxy together, on our terms." The alien seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Captain. Thank you. You're showing mercy when the Empire would never have done the same." Thompson leaned forward, her expression cold. "This mercy comes with a price, and if you ever turn on us again, the galaxy will see just how far humanity is willing to go." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge silent. The crew exchanged glances, unsure of what to say. They had just won a monumental victory, but now the path ahead was uncertain. The Empire had fallen, but what would come next? Thompson stood there for a moment, gazing out at the stars. The battle had been won, but the true war, the war for the future of the galaxy, was just beginning. "We'll rebuild," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. "But we'll do it right this time." The Vanguard turned its course, heading toward the next chapter in humanity's history. The galaxy had been forever changed, and humanity, once oppressed, now held the power to shape its destiny. As the stars moved by in the vastness of space, one thing was certain: the Empire was gone, and the age of human dominance had begun. The Vanguard cruised through the quiet of space, the vastness of the galaxy stretching out like an endless sea. On the bridge, Captain Thompson stood before the large observation window, her mind racing with what had just transpired. The last battle had shattered the Galactic Empire, but that victory came at a price. Now, it was time to reshape the galaxy, not through more war, but through leadership and diplomacy. Humanity had won, but the real challenge had just begun. Thompson turned from the window as the crew began to filter back in after the tense transmission with the Galactic Council. Her first officer, Lieutenant Dre, approached her, his face serious. "Captain, we've secured the Outer Rim systems. The remaining Loyalist fleets has scattered, and the Empire's central command is in complete disarray," he reported. "But there's something we need to discuss. The Alien Council wants to meet." As promised, Thompson nodded. It was no surprise that they were eager to sit at the table now, after begging for mercy. The terms were clear. Humanity would no longer tolerate empire building or the enslavement of weaker species. But a new galaxy needed leadership, and humanity was poised to provide it. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding a fractured galaxy. "Prepare the conference room," she ordered, her voice calm yet firm. "It's time we show them who's in charge now." The crew moved quickly, and soon Thompson and her top officers were sitting in a dimly lit conference room aboard the Vanguard. The long, polished table was now surrounded by representatives of the Alien Council, their faces a mixture of apprehension and fear. They had seen what humanity was capable of, and now they were about to learn what humanity was willing to do to ensure peace. The atmosphere was tense as the Galactic Council members took their seats. The leader of the council, a tall, spindly alien with golden scales, looked at Thompson from across the table. His eyes were full of uncertainty. "We've come to negotiate," he said, his voice echoing in the sterile room. "We understand that the war has ended, and we are ready to discuss the terms of peace." Thompson's gaze was sharp, unwavering. "Peace," she repeated, her tone cold. "You want peace. After everything the Empire did to humanity, the countless lives lost, and the centuries of oppression, I think you have a lot more to answer for than just a simple treaty." The alien leader shifted nervously in his seat. "We understand the gravity of your victory. We have no illusions left. But the galaxy can't be rebuilt through violence. We must come together, unite under a common cause." Captain Thompson stood, her figure casting a shadow over the table. "You're right about one thing. The galaxy cannot be rebuilt through violence alone. But you'll find that humanity doesn't just seek peace. We seek justice. The Empire is no more, and we're here to ensure that it never rises again." She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. Then, with a pointed gesture, she continued, "You will help us rebuild, and in return, humanity will guide you. The galaxy will no longer be ruled by a single empire or a council of elites. It will be governed by the people. And humanity will lead them, not as conquerors, but as protectors." The Alien Council looked at one another, their nervous energy palpable. They had never imagined a future where humanity would hold such power. The negotiation had taken a sharp turn. Now, they were on the back foot. "Do we have a choice?" The alien leader asked quietly, his tone less confident now. "No," Thompson replied simply. "You don't. But there's something you should know. You're not just dealing with soldiers and generals. You're dealing with a species that has endured the darkest of times and come out stronger. Humanity doesn't just survive. We thrive." She looked around the table at each alien, her gaze firm and unyielding. "You have no choice but to work with us. But if you choose to resist, we won't hesitate to act. The galaxy has suffered enough, and we won't let it fall into the hands of those who would abuse its power." The room fell silent. The Alien Council members exchanged uneasy glances, but there was nothing left to say. They knew they had no leverage left, and they understood the truth in Thompson's words. The days of unchecked power and conquest were over. Humanity had come to the forefront, not just as a survivor, but as the new force of order in the galaxy. Thompson's voice broke the silence. "We'll make this work, but it will be on humanity's terms. The galaxy has changed. It's time the rest of you caught up." With that, the meeting was adjourned. The council members shuffled out, leaving the room in tense quiet. The fate of the galaxy now rested in humanity's hands. As Captain Thompson walked back to the bridge, she allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. The galaxy had trembled when humanity's fleet arrived, but now it was their moment to reshape it. The Empire was gone, the Council was broken, and the future was theirs to mold. She looked out at the stars once more. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. "Humanity has taken its place at the top of the galaxy." And as the Vanguard continued its journey through the stars, the galaxy would soon learn that humanity's legacy was not one of destruction, but of hope, a hope that would burn brighter than any empire ever could.